Hi guys, it's Mrs. Dugan. So today we are going to be talking about the scientific method. Now, over the past couple days, we've talked about observations, we've talked about inferences, we've talked about different types of data, and now we're going to really kind of bring it together and see where does that lie in the scientific method. Right now, you should have out this sheet of paper, scientific method doodle notes. We're going to go over this and just make sure you're filling it in. Pause the video if you need to, but we're going to go through a PowerPoint. So it's not going to be me writing on the screen like I do in class. All right, let's get ready. So first things first, let's go here. Okay, scientific method. Now, the scientific method, as we have in our notes, is the process of experimenting. Okay, so these are the steps that scientists use to start and end an experiment. The first thing is that we always start with a question. The process starts when you ask a question about something you observe. So, observation, we make an observation, and then we're going to ask a question about it. For example, maybe I noticed that my daughter is not hungry during dinner. My question may be, is Evelyn eating something during right before she comes home from daycare? All right. The questions that we can ask are why, how, when, and what. And this needs to be a testable question, not based on opinion. So when we say it's testable, we need to be able to look at the problem, look at the question, and think, okay, how can I actually test it? Where we need to have some variables. We need to be able to see, is it just a yes or no question, or is it more detailed? Okay, so when I say yes or no question, when I gave the example of Evelyn, I can't just say, is Evelyn, I don't know, is Evelyn eating bananas? Yes or no? Okay, it needs to be testable. So the next thing you're going to do is with your question, you have to research, okay? Research is a systematic way of gathering information, all right? This is what's known about your question. And with this is how you're going to learn from others who have already conducted experiments. And you know what? It may be that your question's already been answered. You may go back and ask another question about your observations, okay? We do research for a variety of what reasons. We do research to learn. We also do research to make sure that that question has not already been answered. When you are researching, you're not just looking at one source of information, you're looking at hundreds, maybe not hundreds. That's a little bit of a gross exaggeration, but we're looking at multiple sources of information, trying to see if if this experiment's already been done. Why would we do that? Well, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to put all of our effort into something that has already been answered numerous times. After you've created your research, you need to come up with your hypothesis. Now remember, our hypothesis is a prediction of what we think is going to happen, okay? Or it's an educated guess about the answer to your question. It is a prediction about the outcome of the experience that you designed, and this should be measurable and not opinion based. Okay, again, measurable. What is measurable? Remember, what type of data would be considered measurable? That would be quantitative data. So we're trying to look at how can we measure this. Sometimes we do have qualitative studies. When I was in high school, I worked in a cancer research lab, and I had a qualitative study looking at behaviors of different types of rats that were being cured for cancer. Okay, so that behavior is a qualitative, but it was still measurable. I could see if the rats were being aggressive, if they were sleepy, um, if they were hungrier, anything like that. So we need to make sure that we can measure something and it's not opinion based. All right. Next, you're going to do is design your experiment. Now, we're designing an experiment to test our hypothesis. This should be a fair test with appropriate variables and controls. Okay, so variables. Variables are things that change or don't change. And we'll get into that a little bit more when I get back. So controls are things that must stay the same, something that stays the same every day. So something, for example, a variable at school. Let's look at your school day. What are some variables at school? It could be uh, the type of lunch you're getting. Okay. It could be an interaction with teachers. It could be um, maybe your bus is late. That's a variable. However, a control would be the bell schedule. It stays the same every single time. Okay, we don't fluctuate. The bell doesn't ring at 9:15 and then rings the next day for school to begin at 9:26 or 7:30. Okay, it's going to stay the same. These are our like tried and true. We know this is going to happen. All right. Now, this experiment should also be repeated and by you and other people. Okay. So, fun fact, when I was in middle school, I wanted to be a geneticist. So, a geneticist is somebody who works with genetics or genes. And I met a doctor who really was very well known in this genetics community, and I found out about 10 years ago, which is crazy that I could say that, but he was not writing down his procedures for his experiments. So that means that no one else was able to repeat his experiments. That means that his research was not valid anymore because we can't tell if it's actually true or not based on one test. All right. For example, let's say, um, let's look at my class, right? Okay. If I only gave you a single test and said, all right, that's it, you don't get any more tries. This one test is going to determine if you fail or pass seventh grade. All right. Would that be fair? No, we need repeated tests to see if you have grown as a student and to see if you've learned the material. Same with experiments. Experiments need to be repeated and um, they need to test your hypothesis. During your experiment, you're going to collect data. So you're going to collect all your data and observations in a journal, record it accurately. Don't try to make it fit your hypothesis, okay? Just be honest. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's still important, even if your hypothesis is not supported or correct, okay? So we don't fudge numbers. We don't do anything like that because even though we want a certain outcome, the science behind it may say, that's not possible. It's not possible for a fly to fly to the moon. Okay. It's not possible for you to invent a new type of curtain that, I don't know, only, that doesn't block out sunlight but blocks out moonlight. I don't know. Whatever we're trying to do. You're always, when you're collecting your data, you need to make sure that you have units. Remember, it's numerical data. It's a quantitative data or a qualitative data, right? It has to have units. And if it's quantitative, it has to have a unit of measurement, or else we don't know what you're talking about. I gave the example the other day that if you had seven purple elephants and you said seven, I could think that you were talking about 7 cups. We don't know what it is unless you put measurements. Now, when you're recording, you always want to make sure that you are recording the time and date as well. That just kind of keeps you accountable and it helps specify when this is taking place. After we've collected all of our data, we're going to analyze. So we're going to organize data into charts or graphs, and this will help you visualize your data. Okay, I'm going to pull up here. I will link something in the comments. What do you think is more? What do you think is more easy to read? A data wall, which is just a bunch of numbers and units, or graphs? I'm going to tell you right now, it's a graph. Graphs are great because they're going to help you visualize your data and see trends. Okay, you may when you are looking at your data, you may notice that your results aren't what you expect. or things that may have occurred, or errors or outliers or things like that that you need to address. Last thing that you're going to do is write your conclusion. When you write your conclusion, you're going to determine if your hypothesis was supported or not supported. Now, this is something that is really important to me, and I need you to understand this. A hypothesis is not correct or incorrect. It is supported or not supported. The only way that we have something that is correct is if it's a scientific law. All right. So a hypothesis is a theory. So it's not that your theory is correct, it's that it is supported by evidence. All right. And sometimes we have experiments that have so that support a hypothesis, and then they do it again and it doesn't support the hypothesis. All right. So it's important that we don't say that it's correct all the time. We're saying that it's supported. It says, was it right or wrong? But I want you to add, was it supported or not supported? All right. If it wasn't supported, you can go back and revise and redesign your experiment. If it was supported, you go right and you tell everybody about it, which is where we're at. Even if it's incorrect, even if the hypothesis is not supported, you still need to report it to people. Okay. You now have information to share, and it's really important that you share that information, especially with the scientific community. So you could report at a science fair, publish in a journal. There's so many different ways that we can report science, especially now with social media being at the height. How many of you have been on TikTok and seen something interesting? All right. Social media has revolutionized how science is distributed to the world. Okay. So that is it for your notes. If you still need to fill anything in, go back to the beginning of this video and fill in your notes. Make sure that your notes are pasted into Gus across two pages of notes. All right. And move on to the next thing. I need you to do the quantitative and qualitative sort. Have a great day, guys.